En iedere keer dat ik weer naar je kijk, dan voel ik mij de koning te rijk. Want jij bent in mijn ogen haast alles tegelijk. Zoveel schoon om te zien. En die verdragen moet iedere man. Je moet geluk toch altijd met z'n tweeën maken. En bij een ander vind je ook niet opgeschept. Je zou misschien nog van de wal in schrootje raken. Je kunt maar beter houden wat je hebt. Met de vlam in de pijp schoor ik door de Brennerpas. Met mijn 30 tonnen diesel ver van huis waar in mijn sas. Met de vlam in de pijp door die eindeloze nacht. En dan moet ik even denken aan mijn vrouw die op me wacht. S'avonds bij het licht der sterren, kijk ik even naar de maan. Die lacht mij dan toe van verre, zo zij soms geen mens bestaan.
Or Nubu or Nubia means gold. That's what you have heard today from an Abu symbol. We were in Nubia territory. Nubia means in ancient language gold. And the ancient Egyptians went there since thousands of years to bring the gold from the gold mines. That's why Ramses II, he was so proud of himself and he wanted to appoint himself as a king of the gold territory. That's why he built his temple there in the middle of the desert, and that was so strange why he built his temple in the middle of nowhere. He had 12 wives. The most favorite one was a dark-skinned woman called Nefertari, and he built a small temple near his temple for her. Although the second temple was dedicated for his wife, he decorated the temple with 6 statues, only 2 for his wife and 4 for him. That shows you how he was so ambitious and very proud of himself. And his wife wrote on the facade of her temple, "I am the most beautiful woman on earth, and I defy if there's another woman more beautiful than me." See how she was so sure of herself and her beauty? We drove today 60 kilometers. We will drive from Aswan downstream to Luxor. And the journey takes about 200 kilometers, about 140 miles. The first stop is 60 kilometers away from Aswan. After seeing the temple, we will go back the boat and we sail further to Edfu. Edfu is halfway between Aswan and Luxor. Must be Italian. Speak 24 hours a day to speak. Stop. So what did I say? Luxor. We'll drive the halfway today from Aswan to Edfu, and we'll spend the night in Edfu. We will not sail in the evening. We'll spend the night, and tomorrow morning we will go to the temple of Edfu. By the way, every afternoon there is tea with cake. Afternoon tea with cake on board, free for everybody. If you don't like to have tea, you can have coffee. You can have coffee, with cake. I suggest to make it at 4 o'clock. Is that okay with you? It starts at 4 until... So the tour here takes about half an hour, and then he give you half an hour to walk around here. If you like to buy galabia or some costume. Momento. So what did I say? If you like to buy tonight there is a galabia party, costume party. If you like to buy kaftan. What the language is one? So, what did I say? What? Tonight, if you like to buy kaftan tonight, you could buy kaftan from here. Tonight there's a costume party. If you like to buy, to take picture for yourself in the evening, it's going to be a very beautiful occasion to take Galabia. Or if you don't want to buy, in the bazaar of the shop of the boat, you could rent a galabia for £5, huh? And the whole costume. So our program today is the following. See the temple, and then give you half an hour free walk here, take the shopping, and you go the boat at 4 o'clock afternoon tea. We sail to Edfu, and Edfu we spend the night, and at 8 o'clock there is dinner. And there's nothing to see in the city in the evening. It's a small town, and there's nothing deserved to be seen. Tomorrow we take a horse buggy. Every 4 people get in a horse buggy, and we see the temple, and we come back, and then we go further to Luxor. This temple is the second temple, dates back to the Greco-Roman period. It was dedicated to the god Sophic. Have you ever heard from Sophic? Sophic is crocodile. Here he is. Look at those 3 figures in the first row. There's a man on the far right, behind him his wife, and as usual, she stands behind him, touching his shoulder gently, and behind both of them, his wife, the moon god. He has a moon above his head. This is like the Trinity today, the Triad or the Trinity, huh? 3 gods, but the Trinity in ancient Egypt consisted of Father, Mother, and the Son. And this was a text with 17 lines as praise, praise, say something nice. To the god, praise, to the god Sophic and his wife. And you might see in the very far right of the text, the king at the, so funny. Why should I come to the god Sophic crocodile to worship him? Do you like crocodiles? Of course not, they are not friendly. Those, especially when you know that in this part of the Nile turns to the left side, form a right angle. And when you know that since thousands of years there was a lot of crocodiles in this part, and they attacked people on the fields. The crocodile in that time was 7 meters long almost. 7 meters is from here until almost here. And this was the strongest creature on the Nile. He attacked everything. He attacked the hippopotamus and the farmers, and there was no way to stop him. So how comes that people worshipped him then? Afraid of him. Let us say now that this lady is our boss, for example, and our firma. We work together in the same company, and our boss. Huh? Let's say she's not a nice person. She's very aggressive and very wild, always scream and yell at us. Huh? Do that, do that. We say, okay, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir. But when she goes, we say, shit. Huh? But you cannot do that for her. You know, she has to go out first. Or the best thing to do is take her picture, huh? And hang the picture on the wall at home, and with tomatoes or potatoes, and that makes you feel that you're revenge, huh? The same thing. I could not confront that danger face to face. 7 meters long, it's no mercy. So the only way is to go to some certain place higher than the level of the land, and I began to make a picture for this god, and give him some presents. You are nice, you are beautiful, you are good, you have blonde hair, blue eyes. This is almost the 17 lines that you see them on the right side. The king carrying all these offerings in his hand. Tell you where you are. The king here with the crown above his head. He's carrying a tray with all those roses and perfume, and behind him Jinn is carrying, that's corn as you see, corn and mice, carrying all those offerings to the Trinity of the temple. So it means this God, we did worship him not because we wanted to increase his profits, like the sun give us light and warmth. Eagle reflects the wish to fly in the sky. Hathor, which is a symbol of abundance. This was another kind of God. We worshipped him not to increase his benefits, but to avoid his danger. To avoid his danger. I told you before, he's bad, but we tell him, oh, you are beautiful, you are nice, okay, all what you say is orders. But we have to make a chapel for this image. In this chapel we give presents and offerings. He might be nice to us, and he might control all the other creatures of his race. Now you know what I mean? Yeah. So this temple also is very new, 300 before Christ. And this temple had originally a long pylon, but from this pylon nothing now left, more than only 1 meter from the bottom, because the rest of the temple was used as quarry for the native inhabitants to take the stone, and nothing now left more than only the first step. Let's go further. Egyptians built a hall with pillars to create two floors, the ground floor and the first floor. On the ground floor, we knew that there was only the priests with their incense and perfume oil and their religious songs in ground floor, and in the very, very top, they took the statue of the god in his boat, and he was placed on the very top of the temple that the god could save power from the sun. The same thing like what you do today. You're in cruising on the Nile that you could sit all the time under the sun. Huh? The same thing was also done by the god, and he sat all the time in the roof of the temple. If you look at the space between this pillar and that pillar, the very, very top, what do you see? You see two ladies, right? In the Arch Trail. The Arch Trail, you see two ladies with two suns above their heads. Right?
Yeah.
What between the two suns? Don't you see some red lines?
Yes.
What does that mean between these red lines? See them?
Sunrise.
No, the line is strips. There was a picture, no, there was a picture with the artist in the papyrus, and it was stripped in lines, and according to this picture, he did it once more on the walls. And these were the guiding lines, the red lines which guide the sculptors to carve all these things. So these statues before in the museum, it was told you that the left leg was always forward, the two hands are stitched down. Remember that? And those four statues that we saw them today in Abu Simbel temple, they represent four policemen, four escorts, or four guardians. They watch the gate of the temple. You might ask yourself, why those four statues? Did you ask yourself why?
I'll ask you why.
That's very good. But if you ask yourself, you'll never find the answer. Those were four statues. They represent guardian of the temple. The temple in ancient Egypt was not open place for the visits. It was a holy place of the divinity. It's a house of the divinity. It was supplied with all the treasures of the gods, his gold and his silver, the precious stones. And that's what you have seen when you went to the temple. You saw side rooms. Those side rooms were not open. The two hands are stitched down. Remember that? And those four statues that we saw them today in Abu Simbel temple, they represent four policemen, four escorts, or four guardians. They watch the gate of the temple. You might ask yourself, why those four statues? Did you ask yourself why?
I'll ask you why.
That's very good. But if you ask yourself, you'll never find the answer. Those were four statues. They represent guardian of the temple. The temple in ancient Egypt was not open place for the visits. It was a holy place of the divinity. It's a house of the divinity. It was supplied with all the treasures of the gods, his gold and his silver, the precious stones. And that's what you have seen when you went to the temple. You saw side rooms. Those side rooms were not open originally. They were just only for the treasures of the temple. The temple has a straight axe, consists of four statues on the outside, 20 meters high. What's the meaning of that? If you come since more than 3,000 years ago and look at the statue of the Pharaoh, 20 meters high, the same feeling that you have today was doubled a million times if you are 3,000 years back in time. Your Pharaoh was 20 meters high. So those four statues were made to be four policemen, four guardians for the temple and its treasures. That's why the Egyptians always built their temples with huge measurements in the very beginning, to scare the enemies who would come to attack the temple. It begins with huge measurements and ended with what? With nothing. But the most important part is the outer part of the temple. It must be very impressive measurements, scare anyone from attacking the temple. Anyway, that's not our subject now. This is the god Sophic, the master of the temple. The reliefs. We spoke about the statues, but the reliefs have very funny characters. You see always the man shown from the profile. Always. At the same time, his shoulder is shown from front. But the breast is from the profile still. Look at the two ladies here. The breast from profile, shoulders in front of you. It's so strange to be this way. And although the shoulders are in front, the face shown from the profile. And if I stand from the profile, I cannot see you. So they put the eye in front position. You ask yourself why this strange figure?
Yeah, because I couldn't have time on the side.
Not exactly. That's partly correct, yeah. But why the shoulder from front and the breast from profile? And the face from profile could be from front. I'll tell you later on in Luxor. Think about it later on. So, this is why wherever you go in Cyprus, Sicily, Crete, and look at this style, you say without any hesitation that was Egyptian culture someday. You must see that the king has two skirts. One is a short skirt, and another one longer and translucent or transparent, shows us the details of his body underneath. He has two double dress. One of them looks like chiffon today. You know chiffon? Yes. So translucent. And the king, his face carry a serious smile, like Mona Lisa. Smile of man assured of what to do and where to go since more than 2,000 years. And he is happy now because the two goddesses of Upper and Lower Egypt, who are wearing tight tunic. This relieves, although in general they are Egyptians, but you could tell that they carry some of the Greek influence. How comes? The back part is more vaulted. The belly is also more wavy. The breast is a bit relatively big. The Egyptians have these characters, but it was not so exaggerating in the proportion like the Greeks. That's how could we know that the Egyptians, was made during the Greek-Roman time, which is about 300 years before Christ. The king had been crowned by two goddesses, and the two goddesses wearing wigs. The wig in ancient Egypt consisted of stripes of leather, and this leather was vergolded, was painted with gold color, and the hair was twisted around it. So when the woman moves her hair in the sun, it looks like the blonde hair or something similar to it. So the two goddesses, they crown the king by putting the double crown above his head, and he's happy he receiving the crown, which takes place before the eyes of the witness god Sophic, and his wife stands behind him. I look at her breast and her body, which is telling you it's Greek influence, but in Egyptian style. This picture seems like it takes place in the sky, in heavens. Where's Egypt? Papyrus, Lutus, Papyrus, Lutus, Papyrus, Lutus. Upper and Lower Egypt, alternately, that's Egypt. And very, very high in the sky, the king with the gods and had been crowned by the two gods. And the god witnessed this process. All the pictures you see in general in a temple is what? The king throw incense to the god, and the king upstairs in the second row in front of you in the wall, he has two buckets of flowers to give them to the god. And in the third row up there, the king has a necklace, he gave it to the god, right? Always the king with different crowns, and he gave different things. The first row on the bottom, he throw incense. Second one, two bundles of papyrus. Third one up there, in the very top, he gave necklace to the god. What is the relationship between the king and the god? Why you should go to the temple to give offerings or to pay tax today, the Christian people pay tax to church? Why should we go to church?
Just to worship God.
To tell God you are beautiful, you are nice, or to ask Him for something?
Their life forever.
You want from life, and what else?
Money.
Health. No, money, but in that time there was no money. That's true, you ask for money. You ask for, but for this money you have to pay tax, you have to pay bakshish. You go, if you are Greek Orthodox Christian, you go to church and you buy a candle, it was $1, and you burn the candle to the God, but against this candle you ask God for a million things. Money and lands and health and power and so it's business. You pay to the God and the God give you blessing. Same thing here. Why I'm standing in front of the God? Why I give him here offerings and roses and necklaces? Because I want from the God two things. I want from him this sign. I think you have heard about it before, and this sign. And always the God have it. Have always these two signs. The king had nothing in his hands, all over the pictures. But the God has always in his two hands the scepter and the key of life. So this is what I want from the God always. I don't want anything from him more than two things: long life, eternal life, and power and stability. And this is generally the relationship between any Egyptian pharaoh and the God in any Egyptian temple. The same pictures everywhere. The king gave offerings, many things he gave it. Incense, roses and flowers. Why roses? If you send your girlfriend a bucket of flowers, what does it mean? It's non-verbal message, I love you, without saying anything. So the same thing, he did the same. He gave the God 2 buckets of flowers. Since 2,000 years, the same international language. Up there he gave him a necklace, because he wants from him the eternal life and the scepter, which are always in the hand of the God. And down there was an oracle room. It's a room we suppose that one of the priests went inside it, and he speaks from underground, and through the echo, the voice goes through the whole temple, so the audience who is standing outside, we think that the God talked to them from somewhere in the temple. Since we are very close to the Nile, and the water came all the way here, that's why the God was always standing on a boat. And this boat has something to do with the Ark of Noah. I'm going to tell you this connection tomorrow, because now it's too hot, you don't look interested in hearing anything from me. So just say in general, there was a boat on the Holy of the Holies, and between 2 blocks of stone you might see a groove. This groove was made for dove tail. This dove tail was made of stone, or made of lye. Let's say lye. It's metal, called tin, lead, made of lead, made of lead. And this wedge, which made of lead, should connect between 2 blocks of stone. That goes all the way. That was a wall. But all the stone of the temple had been taken away, and nothing now left more than only the floor of the temple. Let me show you the most important part of the temple, and then we go out. This is maybe the most important part of the whole temple. This picture. We are now outside the temple, between 2 walls, between the outer wall and the inner wall. That is what we call it pathway. This pathway was only for the ordinary people to go through it, for pilgrimage. Like what? Today in Saudi Arabia, for example, you know the house of Abraham? The black house of Abraham. The people who go for pilgrimage, they don't go inside the house. They go only around the house 7 times, and they are already pilgrims. The same thing. That was an obscure or a puzzle. Nobody should conquer it. You only go as far as around the temple to run around it, and then you are a pilgrim. What should you see then when you come here? You see this picture which shows us Egyptian engineer. His name was Imhotep. Imhotep was the engineer who built the step pyramid in Saqqara. He was worshipped as a god 2,000 years later after his death. And the King Frederick II, he kneels on his knee, and he presents to the temple this list of medical instruments. The doctors might know some of the instruments until now still in use. Some of them is shvam, sponge, like sponge to absorb the blood. 2 spoons, sherry, messer, how do you say messer? Scissor, yeah. Scissor, that's a scissor. And scale, little scale to measure the medicine with perfection. And in the very, very top in the middle, you must see a saw to cut the bones. So this picture forces us to believe that the temple was not used as a religious center or as a commercial center to collect taxes, but also as hospital. Sometimes if I'm sick, I go to God, I go to church, tell God, please take care of me, please recover me. But it doesn't help. Next day, I die or something. So, so the same thing. The Egyptians might have been sick or something. That's why they came to the temple for a spiritual medicine, but it's not good. It doesn't have no feeling or no affection. Doesn't affect. Yeah. So they they must have done operations, and we know that the priests of the temple who have information or aware of the embalmment, they knew all the functions of the intestines, and this picture show us that the temple was used as a hospital, and those were some of the medical instruments which used in the temple to recover the sick people. Even those two women, that the first time to see this position, that's a birth stool. Birth stool is two pregnant women sitting on this stool, which is like a stool, stool, but with an opening in the middle. When the woman is pregnant, she does not lie on bed, because when she lies in bed, that would be so difficult to squeeze all the muscles for the kid to come out. So the Egyptians found it's better to sit down in this position. What do you call this position? Squat. Squat, yeah, this squat. And by this position, she squeezed all the muscles and the kid come out so easily. Nowadays in America and in France, they began to use this way as a new method to make the kid come out so easily, which was also known in ancient Egypt.
هو مرة في واحد قدامي والله ما سيب عليه في ناس قدامي محمد والله ما سيب محمد في ناس قدامي اميغو
يا ربيع جابر افتح الطريق يا ربيع
مسيو كملوا كمل ما يبصر
يا ابراهيم يا ابن النبوه يا راجل تعالوا يا راجل
ولدي عرب قدام كل ما مستني عليه ساعتين
مدام شافوه
اليوم معسل عايش صغير وبيهودي
Okay, give me 12 pounds.
5.
12.
I can get 5 on the boat.
Okay, give me 10 pounds.
5.
10.
5. I can get it 5 on the boat.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. One. 1 pound. 1 pound. 1. 50 piazza. Yeah.
ماذا؟
No.
عمر
No.
مش عمر ماذا؟ صنيورة كده لا يصورك
أنا بقى مش نحصل. Monsieur.
Non, non merci. Non merci.
You, wrong. You, on you. No.
No?
No. One on to left, just one on to left.
Who is this grande big? Nice big, monsieur? It's big.
No.
15.
It's big.
15
Monsieur.
No, don't want it.
No?
No.
No, 1 for 12. 1 for 12.
No money? No money?
No.
Okay, 2 pounds? 2 pounds. 2 pounds. 2 pounds, okay, 10 pounds.
All right.
And another sucker bites the dust.
Can't help it. We've been told we have to get them. Aren't you wearing one at all?
Okay. Okay, this is no 12, no color?
Yeah, this is
The color 12 pounds, this is nice.
No, that
It's
looks
really
nice on you.
Okay, 11. Ça va.
Nice on you.
Okay, 11. Okay, 11.
No,
Okay, 10.
no,
Ça va.
I bought
It's
one.
nice. It's very good.